Now, I'm sure that a lot of people tuning in will be wondering at the start, because the new tax regime is the default regime now, which means, as I understand it, that if you do not send an intimation to your employer, the person that pays your salary, then by default, the new tax regime gets chosen for you. Is that something to pay attention to at the start of the financial year? Arvind, I'll start with you.
Sure.
Definitely.
Arvind, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So it is because I think the whole, now we have a year's history available, because this is something which was introduced in the last year's budget, making the new regime as the default. So having been through that 1 year, what matters is an individual has to actually go back and check what is the quantum of deductions that they are planning to take from their salary income. If this amount is exceeding 3.5 lakhs, it's at that point where old regime is beneficial for them. So if one of our listeners here is falling in that bracket, and if they don't go and intimate their employer that they want to opt for the old regime, what it might result into is that the TDS that gets deducted per month from their salary will be slightly lower, because the new regime will calculate the taxes. My bad. The new regime will calculate the taxes higher, and thereby the TDS deduction will be higher. Of course, when they file their returns, they can still opt for the old regime and claim this refund back. But Alex, my opinion is that it's always better to plan your cash flows better. So if you're able to declare your regime at the start of the year and get more salary in hand monthly, that's always better than trying to claim a refund at the end of the year.
Okay. Arnav, I'll come to you, because that 3.5 lakh number is quite an important distinction. Is that something that your calculations are also pointing towards? And I would think the way that I had looked at it is that if you have one of two things, HRA, which is your house rent allowance, which allows you to claim a significant discount, or not discount, but a deduction, or Section 24, in which you're paying the interest on a home loan. And if that is a substantial amount to the extent of 2 lakh, invariably your deductions cross that 3.5 lakh mark. Is that something to bear in mind?
Yes, definitely. So, my calculations come in that same range. It's around 3.7 something.
Sure.
So, let's, for the simplification purposes, keep it in that range itself. So, if you look at the deductions which you claim, if you go by the normal Section 80C, Section 80D, plus the other deductions which are there, those won't come or won't go beyond 3 lakhs. Unless, as you mentioned, you either have a home loan where you are claiming the full 2 lakh deduction under Section 24, or you are claiming the house rent allowance, and that is significant. So the key part here becomes that which are the deductions that you are already claiming, and whether the figure goes high enough for you to actually make it beneficial to stay in the old tax regime. And so that becomes the key component of making the decision. And looking at the manner in which you are either spending or what your existing condition is, that itself will give you a very clear idea whether you should opt for the new tax regime or not. And as far as the salaried are concerned, what they need to do is that by default, since you are going into the new tax regime, if you want to actually ensure that you stay in the old tax regime, you have to give the intimation. Now, you can still change that decision at a later age. Now, why am I saying this? Because as compared to businessmen or professionals, once they have shifted to the new tax regime, they can't come back. That is the main difference. The salaried can keep switching, but those who are having income from business or profession, they cannot do the reverse or come back again.
So let me clarify this. If you have been on the old tax regime for a period of time, and then in FY25, that is the financial year that starts today, if you shift to the new regime, you cannot change back. Is that what you're saying, Arnab?
Not for, I mean, the salaried can switch back.
No, for professionals.
Yeah, for professionals, if you switched once, you cannot come back.
Okay, fair point. That was actually going to be one of the questions that I was going to ask. Now, one of the aspects that I think the government was intending with the introduction of this new tax regime was simplification. We have talked about a large pool of taxpayers that have this 3.5 lakh calculation, but